Ever get frustrated with how long it takes AI to do its thing? Like, you can practically feel your phone getting warm while it churns away on a simple request.
Oh, absolutely. And that's not just an annoyance for us users either.
Right.
It represents a real bottleneck in how we develop and use AI,
Yeah,
especially when we're talking about these large language models.
right. Because the more powerful we make these AIs, the more resources they seem to gobble up.
Ah.
But what if there was a way to make them faster and more efficient without sacrificing their capabilities?
Oh.
That's exactly what we're diving into today with something called prompt caching.
And this isn't some far-off concept either.
Okay.
It's already being implemented by companies like OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT,
Right.
to speed up their systems and make them more cost-effective.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does this prompt caching thing actually work?
Imagine you're working on a complex puzzle, right?
Okay.
And every time you need to fit a certain group of pieces together, you have to start from scratch, remembering how they all connect.
Yeah.
It'd take forever, right?
Yeah, you'd be stuck there all day, probably, with a raging headache.
Well, prompt caching is like having a cheat sheet for those recurring puzzle pieces.
Okay.
Instead of redoing the work every time, you can just refer back to your notes.
Right.
Essentially, it allows developers to store the AI's understanding of certain instructions or information so it doesn't have to recompute everything from scratch each time.
So it's like hitting the save button in your brain.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. And we're talking about saving entire chunks of understanding, not just individual words or phrases, right?
Absolutely. We dug into a research paper that describes prompt caching, and it goes into detail about how these prompts, which are basically instructions for the AI, are broken down into reusable modules.
Okay.
And within these modules, the AI's understanding of how language connects what we call attention states is preserved.
Right.
This attention states thing is really interesting to me. It's like we're trying to decode how the AI thinks. So tell me, how does that translation from human thinking to AI understanding actually happen?
It's all about recognizing relationships.
Okay.
Think about how we read a sentence.
Right.
We don't just process each word in isolation.
Right.
We understand how they relate to each other, picking up on context and meaning.
Yeah.
Attention spates are how the AI does the same thing, recognizing connections and patterns within the information it's given. So if the AI encounters those same patterns again, it can just pull up its save notes, those attention states, instead of starting from scratch.
Uh-huh.
That seems like it would save a ton of processing time.
Exactly. And the paper lays out some pretty clever ways to actually do this. Things like key value caches to store these attention states efficiently.
Yeah.
It gets a bit technical, but the gist is that they're finding ways to make sure the AI can access these stored memories quickly and reliably.
So it's like having a really well-organized filing system for all those attention states.
Hmm?
But even with a good filing system, things can get overwhelming if you're dealing with a ton of information. How do they keep it all manageable?
That's where page detention comes into play.
Okay.
Think of it like searching for a specific topic in a massive online encyclopedia.
Right.
Instead of scanning every single page, you can jump to the relevant section instantly.
Hmm. So page detention is like having a super fast index for all that cached information.
Exactly. It helps the AI zero in on the relevant pieces without getting bogged down.
Right.
And the best part is this is just one of many techniques being developed around prompt caching.
Oh, wow.
The research paper actually mentions a whole ecosystem of tools and approaches.
Really? So it's not just this one-size-fits-all solution?
Not at all. Some researchers are exploring ways to compress those cached memories,
Okay.
making them even more efficient, kind of like zipping up large files on your computer.
Right.
Others are looking at how to combine prompt caching with other AI optimization methods, creating a sort of supercharged system.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds like prompt caching isn't just a technical detail, it's opening up a whole new frontier in AI development.
Yeah,
But let's bring this back down to earth for a second.
sure.
How does this actually impact the average person? Are we talking about noticeable changes, or is this more of a behind-the-scenes improvement?
It's both, actually. In the near term, prompt caching will lead to faster and more responsive AI experiences.
Right.
Imagine a world where your virtual assistant can answer your questions instantly,
Okay.
or where you can have a truly natural conversation with an AI without those awkward pauses while it processes.
Okay, that's definitely something I can get behind.
Right.
No more waiting for my phone to catch its breath.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
What kind of long-term impact could this have?
Think about fields like education or healthcare. Imagine AI tutors that can personalize lessons in real time, adapting to a student's learning style and pace.
All right.
Or AI-powered diagnostic tools that can provide accurate and affordable healthcare access to underserved communities.
Those are some pretty incredible possibilities.
Yeah.
It sounds like prompt caching could be a key factor in making AI not just more powerful, but also more equitable and accessible for everyone.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as the technology matures and becomes more widely adopted, we can expect to see a wave of new applications that we can't even imagine yet.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I'm also wondering about the potential downsides.
Sure.
Are there any risks or challenges associated with prompt caching that we should be aware of?
Like a really important question.
Yeah.
One concern is the upfront cost. While prompt caching can lead to significant savings in the long run, it does require resources to set up and manage these memory systems.
So it's not exactly free speed.
Right.
There's still an investment involved.
Right. And as with any technology that involves storing information, there's always the question of security.
Sure.
Developers need to be extremely careful about how and where these cached memories are stored, especially if they contain sensitive data.
That makes sense. Data security is more important than ever these days. Anything else we should be thinking about?
Well, this might seem a bit distant, but
Yeah.
as AI systems become more complex and interconnected, we need to be mindful of how these cached memories are managed across different platforms and applications.
Right.
We don't want to create a fragmented landscape where AI has memory leaks or inconsistent experiences.
So thinking about interoperability and long-term management is
Right.
key.
Exactly.
Making sure all those cache memories don't turn into a jumbled mess down the line.
We need to be proactive in establishing standards and best practices to ensure that prompt caching is used responsibly and effectively.
Okay.
But all things considered, I think the potential benefits far outweigh the challenges.
I'm inclined to agree. And speaking of benefits, we've talked a lot about the theory behind prompt caching.
Right.
But I'm curious to dig into how OpenAI is actually putting this into practice.
Sure.
They're one of the leading players in the AI field, so their approach could offer valuable insights for other developers.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about their implementation? So OpenAI is putting this prompt caching into action. What's that look like on their end? Is it complicated for developers to use?
That's the really cool part. They've made it surprisingly straightforward.
Okay.
For developers using the supported models, if their prompt goes over a certain length, think a chunky paragraph of text, the API just starts caching automatically.
Wow.
No code changes needed.
So it's like a free upgrade.
Exactly.
You don't even have to think about it.
And there's even more to it.
Okay.
The API is smart enough to find the longest reusable part of a prompt, even if it's just the beginning part that's common across different requests.
Right.
That means even more potential savings.
That's brilliant. But how can developers be sure the caching is actually working? Do they have to just trust OpenAI blindly?
Not at all. OpenAI is very transparent with their usage data.
Okay.
Developers get a breakdown of how many tokens were cached right in their API responses.
Right.
They can see exactly how much processing time and cost they're saving.
Okay, so good transparency there. Any other interesting details about how OpenAI is handling it all?
One thing that stood out to me is their approach to how long the caches last.
Okay.
They're designed to be temporary, usually clearing out after a few minutes of inactivity, and always gone within an hour.
So they're not holding on to this data indefinitely, which makes sense from a privacy perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've hit a nice balance between maximizing efficiency and safeguarding data.
Right.
OpenAI even made it clear that each organization's prompt caches are kept separate in line with their commitment to enterprise privacy.
That's reassuring, especially with all the concerns around data privacy these days.
Right.
So it sounds like what we've got here is a potential game changer.
Yeah.
Prompt caching offers faster responses, lower costs, and could lead to even more personalized AI experiences. What's not to love?
I'm right there with you. And keep in mind, this is still early days.
Right.
The research is rapidly advancing, and OpenAI is just one of the companies exploring this space.
Right.
As prompt caching gains wider adoption, who knows what incredible new applications and innovations we'll see.
It's exciting to think about. If we can achieve this level of efficiency now, what other ingenious techniques will we come up with to push the boundaries of AI even further? Could this be the key to a future where AI's power and accessibility are available to everyone, not just those with massive budgets and technical expertise?
Those are questions worth pondering. It seems we've stumbled upon a goldmine of possibilities, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of prompt caching. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and let's see where the ever-evolving world of AI takes us.